Okay. So nice work on joining this. We did a little switcheroo into this Zoom room because the other class just ends up giving me so much stink, and then it was going to force me to leave it anyway. So I'm so sorry. And I'm glad that we don't have the weird feedback this time because that was not fun. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we are going to be doing our lesson in, and we're going to watch a video, but I really don't need you to listen to the video. I just really like this guy's notes, and I want you guys to answer the questions that go along with it. Have you guys used EdPuzzle? Raise your hand. You know how to raise your hand in Zoom? Raise your hand if you've used EdPuzzle with another class. Good. Okay, so this is not brand new for everybody. Good. Okay, some people maybe it's new. But okay, so EdPuzzle, I'm going to share the link one more time with everybody, just in case you missed it. So click on there. When you create a link, like your name, then please make sure that I know who you are so I can give you full credit. All right, what I want to do is this EdPuzzle lesson. So what's going to happen is we're going to watch a video together, and then while it's playing, it will pause, and I might just do the sound on it, but it's going to pause and ask questions as we do it, which I think is pretty cool. So I see that we have so far 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people in. Some people have started the video, and that's totally fine. There are a total of, how many of you in here right now? 24. So again, please. Okay. So here is, yeah, I just need to know who you are when you join that link. So I'm going to put this in the link in the chat again. This is the EdPuzzle link. Everybody click on it now and join. If you want to put a fun nickname, you can, but just make sure that I know who you are. I mean, like, put your normal name that I can recognize you so I can give you a grade or can count you as here. Okay, so here's how it goes. And you don't have to watch the video unless you're really bored with me, and then you're welcome to do so. So here is live mode. I'm going to be, oh, okay. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. And I don't need the entire thing shown because I have way too many tabs open. And you guys don't need to see all my tabs. Here we go. Share. Here we go. We're doing live mode. So exciting. All right. So we are waiting for a few more people because according to this thing, according to our participants, we have 24 people in this meeting right now. And according to this little thing, oh, good, we're getting more of you. Looks like you can even color on the screen. Should I take that off? Are you guys going to be responsible with that enough? Okay, here we go. So I am going to start it. Wait, do I need to wait for more people? Let's see, we have now, nice. So we have some people that are double, and it's okay. So let me come in the chat because somebody just joined, just so that you can participate with what we are doing right now. Here is, oops, one more person. Got to admit that person. And then here's the chat. I mean, in the chat is the link, just in case anybody missed it. When you share your screen, you can't go back to the EdPuzzle, and that's totally fine. You can go back to your EdPuzzle. You should be able to go back to your EdPuzzle, which you'll just have to listen to me while we're going through that. So you don't have to stay on this screen. Or I guess maybe I'll have to click back and forth. See, there's not a perfect thing for this. Maybe I need to figure out how to do lots of things in Zoom ahead of time. That would take a lot of extra work, but it's okay. Okay, let's do start. So if you're not there yet, then you're not there. Okay, so you should be able to listen to this guy. I'm going to turn his sound off. Okay, I'm going to turn the volume off because I want to explain things, what he has up here. So if you can see his video, that's fantastic. If you want to listen to him, you can. If you don't want to listen to me, I just wanted to share on my screen what makes this so great. So he's showing this example and all of these examples. So inequalities are like equations, except not because it's describing situations where a number is less than or greater than, or sometimes less than or equal to, or sometimes less than or equal to. And then technically there's also this one. This is one of my favorite ones. It's this equal sign with the slash through it. That means not equal. Really creative, right? How they came up with that one. So less than, it looks like a squished over L. That's how I remember that less than is less than, because it looks like an L that was squished, right? And turned on its side. So that's always less than. And then the other one, greater than, you could kind of make this look like a really like slouched over lowercase g. And that sometimes helps, but I can always remember that the less than looks like a squished over L. So we have less than, like X is less than 3, or X is greater than 4 is what he's saying here. And X is less than or equal to 7. So these are all just examples that we don't actually need to know. So I'm going to skip past it. So these are all examples. And then there's going to be a question that's going to pop up that you can answer on your screen. You might have to switch over from Zoom to your other screen. So, okay, which mathematical statement below shows that X is all values greater than or equal to 5.5? So let me give you a hint. When it's or equal to, it has part of the symbols of the equal sign in it. It has a greater than or equal to sign. So that's the one that does not look like a squished L, and then a line underneath it. So greater than or equal to 5.5. So do you guys all have this answered? I mean, that's really not a great thing. I cannot see what you're answering. In the chat, because I can see in the chat. First one, if you're looking at my thing, first, second, third, or fourth one. So greater than or equal to 5.5. And I don't, can you see mine? Is it mine tiny for you? Because it's technically the first one on my screen. It's the X, and then the greater than or equal sign is where you guys probably heard the alligator eats the X, or it's pointing to the smaller number. The small thing would be the 5.5. So it's this first one. Okay. And then, so it should be this one. Oh, and I have responses. Only 7 answered. Did everybody else answer, or did I like just kick you out when I went on? I don't know how this goes. I don't like this as much as quizzes. It's boring compared to that. Okay, so then is self-guided. If you guys want to do it on your own, you totally can. This guy's going to describe it just fine. So I'm just going to describe it as well. So then you're going to have to graph these numbers. And the graphing of them, there are 2 different symbols for what you put on the actual number. So here's X is less than 5. So we put an open circle over 5, because that's kind of like it steps over the 5, but we know it has to do with the 5. So it's like it has something to do with this number. So there's a circle around it, but it can't actually equal the 5. So we keep it's called an open circle. And then same thing with, and then when you're on a number line, the arrow on the X is less than 5, points in the direction that you need to shade. It's really nice. So then X is greater than -1, open circle at -1. And because it's pointing to the right, you shade to the right. Then if there's a line underneath it, we call that a closed circle because it actually can equal that number. Yes, you only answer at the checkpoints. Okay. All right. So it's a closed circle, and again, it points in the same direction that the arrow points. With x is greater than or equal to 0, closed circle at 0 and pointing to the right, so you shade to the right. So there's a no line under in the inequality is great, just plain greater than or less than. And the inequality symbol is underlined when it could be equal to that number. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're just waiting for the question to come because let me just do a little. Okay, so open circle with no line under, closed circle. And there we go. Okay, here we go. First question. X is less than or equal to 5.5 tells you that you should shade all the points to which direction on the number line? Which direction? You can type this in the chat, answer it on your screen. Do you shade you can either type left or right or 1 or 2, either is fine with me. When X is less than or equal to 5.5, do you type to the left, or do you shade to the left or do you shade to the right? So since the arrow right here, which I don't know, is it hard to see? I don't know. Since it's pointing to the X and pointing to the left, it would be shading. Well, only 4 of you answered. I see this now. Which way? So that's a good question. Do you guys want to do this on your own or do you want to do it with me explaining it? Because I can do either one.
With me.
With me? Okay. If you don't want to do it with me, then I'm glad that you know this stuff. Good. If you want to do it with me, then stay here. If you don't want to do it with me, I guess you can get out and I'll just grade you according to participating by what you do in EdPuzzle. Okay, so it should be, your answer should be to the left. There's 6 people that have answered. I'm telling you the answer. It doesn't let you enter into EdPuzzle. Whoa there. Who was that crazy person?
Since you're on live mode, we can't do it without you.
Whitney, please don't color on the screen. Thank you. Okay, so since we're on live mode, you can't. Okay, so then what we'll do. Yeah, see, there's no perfect answer for this. We have to do fancy things in Zoom, and it takes a lot of prep, but I can do it. I'll just do that next time. We'll try regular Zoom. So let's have you waiting for your teacher to go live. Oh, I already did it. Weird. Yes, I see that. Okay, and I like that you changed it so both of your names are on there. That was smart, Peyton and Palin. Okay, so it should be left. 6 out of 16 of you answered. I don't know why it's not letting anybody else in. I'm so sorry. Okay, so X is less than or equal to 5.5 would have an open circle, true or false? False should for sure be that way. Okay, And this is how I think of it, is when there's a less than or greater than and like just extra lines that you have, just try like it's less than or equal to, like there's more writing, and then it's just like with a closed circle, you have to like color more. So the answer should be false. Okay, then we got that. Continue. Got that. Continue. Okay, then, but then there's ways of reading it. So no more than or at most. Those are different ways of saying, like no more than would mean it would have to be less than or equal to, and at most would also be less than or equal to. So those are other ways of saying less than or equal to. Like he just showed the symbol for it. And then at least would be greater than, I'm going to skip past his thing. At least would be greater than or equal to. And then reading, starting with the variable. So this is actually a really common one when there's a number first and then the X. It's easier if you like, you can go backwards, like he's going to show going backwards. I think it's easier to rewrite it the normal way where X goes first. So if you read it from the left to the right, X would be less than 5. It's kind of like you're reading backwards, right? X is less than 5. You can literally rewrite the thing so X is less than 5. So, okay. I like his notes though, they're good. So then you would draw that with an open circle and then shade everything to the left, right? Cool. Now we're coming up on another question. Spam. Okay. All right, match the following statement. James has at least $20 in his pocket. How I think of these is I think about something bigger or greater than or less than the number that they gave us. So like with this, with $20, at least $20. Does that mean he has $25 or does that mean he has $15? Like something bigger and one of them bigger than 20, one of them smaller than 20. And then I figure out which one of those fits that. He has at least $20 in his pocket. Another question I ask is, can he actually have, does that mean he actually has $20 in his pocket? And if it does, then the line there has to be a line underneath, right? Okay, so 4 of you answered so far. At least. So to me, at least means that he could have more than $20. And it has to be the line underneath it. So I see one person so far that has answered with a C. Anybody else want to answer in the chat? You don't have to. You can just answer on your actual thing. Okay. Yeah. So it would be the greater than or equal to 1 is what that should be. So match the following statement. 75 is less than my grade G. 75 is less than my grade. So another thing with less than or greater than is whatever is less than, it's pointing to it. You can say first one, second one, or you can type in the answer in the chat if you're following along like this. Okay, 6 of you answered. And the answer is indeed J is greater than or equal to 20, the third one, C. And then this answer was the first one, G is greater than 75. Okay, so then graphing each inequality. So I always start with open circle or closed circle, and then which way I shade. But then when it comes to problems like this, that with the X is on the right side, I rewrite it, and then I go through and open circle, closed circle, and then shade, it's going to shade to the right. And this is, can I just move the thing? I like having that. Okay, good. And I'm just going to keep on going. Because it'd be open circle, closed circle, which way do you shade? Open circle, closed circle, which way do you shade? So, and then going backwards from the picture to the other part, pardon me, to the other part, we have a closed circle and it's shading to the left. So then we point to the left. Open circle and it's shading to the right. I mean, to the left. I meant to the right up here. to the left. So then it goes like that. So X, and then the number involved is 0. So you put the number over here, and then it's shading to the right. So you point to the right. It's pretty nice and easy. So that last one, what is the correct inequality for the try problem? What is the correct inequality? So if you're looking, you can say first, second, third, or fourth. If you're on your own, you can do it on your own. So it is indeed an open circle. And then which way is it shading? Is it shading to the right or to the left? So which way does the arrow, or which way does the inequality need to point? Because it looks kind of like an arrow, right? These look like an arrow. So like this one's shading to the left. So it looks like an arrow pointing to the left. This is shading to the right. So it looks like an arrow pointing to the right. So this one should be X and then 0, and it's shading to the right. So it should be X is greater than 0. So it should be this one right here. Okay, it's because it's pointing to the right where it's shading. The red is the right. Okay. Then now you have to solve it first and then graph it. And this is where I'm saying this is very much like what we've already done with solving equations. And so we would have to just treat this like an equal sign, especially with adding, subtracting, you just treat it exactly like an equal sign. So you would take 12 away from both sides and not negative, Alicia, because you're just doing positive 20, subtract 12. Yeah, yep, yeah. So be X is less than 8. And then this is my favorite way of doing it. Again, this is why I like this person, is I always, in the middle of the line, I put the number that we're supposed to shade. And then I mark some above and some below. And then open circle or closed circle. Well, I see it's open circle and it's pointing to the left. So I shade to the left, like the inequality points to the left. So I shade to the left. Okay, here's this one. Okay, what's that first step? Oh no, they do the whole thing. If you did the whole thing, and this is where you're going to have those integers. Remember, same sign, some, different sign, difference, and or the song that we heard, right? So this is the song. So same sign, some, different sign, difference. If you add 5, you can see that you would add 5. Then -7 plus 5 would be what number? And then is it greater than or less than? And you can type in the actual answer or the 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or just answer it on EdPuzzle. Okay, nice work. Close, very close, Jay. Because it would be, so when you add 5, -7 plus 5, they have different signs, right? So then so there's different signs. So there's a -7 and a +5. Since there are more negatives than positives, I know my answer is going to be negative. And then I just do 7 subtract 5. 7 subtract 5 is 2. So my answer is -2. And there's only one with an answer of -2, and that is the last one. Nice. More of you answered on that one. Nice work. Okay. So he goes through, he adds 5 to both sides. Got -2, open circle at -2, shading to the right. Okay. So then solve the inequality and graph. So now this is with decimals, which you haven't done a lot with decimals, but it's the same concept. So, and it's on the other side. So you start with the same thing, treat it like an equal sign, and then do the opposite of whatever's happening to the end. So they'll cancel. The sign, that inequality sign, still stays there. We just treat it like an inequality. Nice. So then it is 1.2. You add those two together. So 1.2, this person makes it really fancy. I don't like to make the graph necessarily that fancy, but it's the same idea. Because there's a line underneath, it's a closed circle. And then it's reading backwards. So then this would shade to the left, or you can rewrite it so the N is on the left, and then you'd be able to see it. So it should shade to the left. I like to rewrite it, but you don't have to. Okay, 2 questions come up. Oh, see, he rewrote it right there. And I think it's a he that's talking, right? Okay, so now this is going on and reviewing 2-step equations. So let's see if you remember this. To the x is being multiplied by 2, and 5 is being subtracted from it. So this would be the inverse, or the opposite. We do the SAD map, so we undo subtraction or addition. So what's the first step that we would use to undo what's happening to x on this problem? Would we add 5? Would we divide by 2, or would we subtract 5? To undo the operations in this one. Nice work, Destiny. Nice work, Jay. Nice work, Muhammad. You go by Muhammad. And I love your last name. I cannot say it. I probably could. I'd have to think about it for a long time. Okay. Good. So it is indeed. So instead of subtract 5, we would add 5 to both sides. So add 5 is the answer. And you got it. Okay. So then they add 5, right? And then keeping it there, none, what's the next step? Oh, they already divided by 2. Okay. And then, so then what would the answer be? Ooh, and they switched it around for these answers, sneaky people. Okay, I'm ready for your question. Yes. So this is the question. So in PEMDAS, we do parentheses, exponents, division, multiplication, division, and subtraction, like addition and subtraction, right? So why do we have to, why shouldn't we just divide first and then add? And the answer is basically, instead of doing PEMDAS, we do what I call SADMEP. So it's like you're reading PEMDAS backwards. So you undo. So if you read like the word PEMDAS, see it says PEMDAS, and if we did it backwards, it would be SAD. So we undo subtraction and addition first. Yep, it's the inverse operations. Undo addition and subtraction first, and then undo multiplication and division. Okay, so when we divide -6 by 2, we do get -3. So it's going to be either the first one or the third one. Now, because x on our answers is on the left, but our answer right here is on the right, that's the big question. Which one is it? Does the symbol stay the same, or does it switch when we switch the places? Because it should, like right now, like we would have x, like x is the greater one. When you rewrite it, it still should point to the x. I mean, like open up to the x and point to the number. So Jay, you've got it. Okay, so it should be this one. All right, good. And then, does he rewrite it? He put things on the number line, open circle, and because it's this flip-flop, he needs to shade. He can rewrite it, right? There's that opening. See, it's opened up to the x here and open up to the x here. And then it needs to shade to the right because it's pointing to the right. Okay, so this one, there does get to be tricky things when you're doing, so we've gone over and great, welcome here. Let me see if I can, Laura, did you join the, let me see if I can paste in the everyone chat, the link for where we're at. And if you want to do it on your own, you can. So this is where I start making really, in a real classroom, I start making really loud noises. I start going, because if you start dividing by a negative number, unlike with equations, it just makes everything the opposite. So if you had the inequality, like this one right here, if you had this inequality and you divide by -2, it's making everything opposite, because that negative means opposite. So then instead it would be, oh, I got to move my little chat thing here, or my, whatever that is called. So it'd be -2. So this inequality had to go opposite also, because we're dividing by -2. Negative, another way of saying -2 is the opposite, right? So we've got to make, yep, you flip that sign. You've got to flip the inequality only when you divide by a negative, not when you add or subtract, only when you divide or multiply by a negative. So this one, we divided it by -12. Divide by a negative. So it needs to flip the other way. So it was greater than, and we've got to switch it to the other way. So the less than, and then that is 8, 6. I'm so bad. No, it's not -6, is it? It's 7. It should be 7. Am I right? Yeah. Because 12 times 6 is 72. It should be -7. That's funny. Okay, so if you divide by a negative, you must what? You must make the answer negative or flip the inequality. Which one? Nice. Is that Raya? Nice. Lisa. Nice. Jag. Jay, not that one actually. Because if the answer was already negative and then we divide it by a negative, it would be positive. So it doesn't always make the answer negative, but it does. Okay, good. Good. Joking. Okay, so it does flip the inequality. Okay, good. And then, okay, same thing if you multiply by an inequality. So this one, he's going to multiply by that -3. Nice. And then the operation that you'll have to do is -3 multiplied by -8. Those will divide, cancel, become technically 1. But then the inequality switches. Because we just divided by a negative, we should hear when you see the negative. Was it annoying? It's not as annoying as it could be, believe me. Like, so it's +24 because they're both negatives. And then switching it to the other direction. Close circle. Shading to the left. Cool. All right. So here's another problem. And this is a good one because sometimes there's just a negative in front of the X and it looks super confusing, I think. So it's you can think of it as -1. And then when you divide by -1, everything goes opposite, or you can just say, I know that if it's just negative, it goes back to everything being opposite. So the opposite of +10 is -10. The opposite of greater than or equal to is less than or equal to. And then the opposite of -x is just regular X. I do things, sorry, somebody's just putting in the chat, like, how can I not see that? And that happens to me all the time. Too often. I'm a math teacher. I should see things like that, and I don't always see them. Okay, so then this is two-step equations again. This inequalities technically, which goes back to two-step equations. The nice thing between inequalities and equations is this is really the only thing that's different between inequalities and equations is you have, if you divide by a negative, you switch the inequality, but everything else is the same. That's why I wanted to teach this today, because it's the same. Okay, so we would do what? Okay, wait, so we would subtract 10. first, right? They just went right into the answer. So I just want to walk you through things. So you would subtract 10, and then you have negative 20 subtract 10. They're both negatives, and so we just add them together. 20 plus 10 is 30, so it's negative 30, right? So then I can't draw on, oh, I can, but if I do that, I always get stuck. What was that in just class, or was that in Zoom? I'm afraid of pushing annotate because it always gives me stink. But was it just class that did that? I'm going to try it. And if I regret it, then so be it. Okay. So then we had negative 5x is less than, and then we figured out it was negative 30. The step that we did in between there is we subtracted 10. Subtracted 10. And then I had to write it bigger. So I moved it over a little bit. And then we divide, right? That's the next step. Oh, I like that I can change the color. I like this better. Divide by negative 5. And when we divide by a negative, I'm going to bring this down here to remind myself I switched it. I always like to draw the arrow to remind myself I already switched it. And then divide by a negative 5. So then we'd have x. And then negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 30 divided by 5 is what number? 6. So then we graph it. 6 would go in the middle. And I just do, that was a weird 7. There's a 7 right there. Here's a 5 right there. Open circle. And then shade, I do squiggles for shading because squiggles are more fun than straight lines. Okay, that's the whole thing. So we go like this, mark that one. And now I'm going to clear it. Can I clear it? Clearing it. 3, 2, 1, 2. And oh, cool. I could have saved it. Didn't even. Okay, so we got it right. What do you know? Okay, so they go through and they do all that one. And then we have this one. Oh, did they do it 2 different ways? Let me see. They did this. Okay. And then he's just trying another one if it was positive 30. Negative 6. And then if a negative was over here, what would it be? What would it be? Oh, he's showing what happens if we divide by a negative. So it switched the sign here. So while he's talking, can I do it while he's talking? Cool. So he switched the sign right here, right? But this one, there's no negative, and so the sign is going to stay the same because it's not switching everything. It's not saying the opposite of everything. It's just to this last little part. I'm going to do group and exit out of this. Cool. Okay, looks like one more question is coming up. So only if you divide by a negative does that switch. Okay. Would solving for this problem would you need to flip the inequality? So the inequality is 2x is greater than or equal to negative 8. Would you need to flip the inequality? You can put it in the chat and just answer on here. So let me show you what's happening right here. So here's a situation where there's a negative on the number right here next to the 5. Next to the x, there's a negative. And then when you divided, you'd have to divide by a negative, or it might be multiplying by a negative. And then you switch it. But this problem, it does involve a negative, but it is not the number that you are dividing by. Right? And so because it's not the number that you're actually dividing by, it stays the same. Only if the number that you multiply or divide both sides by is negative, then you switch it. So here's this question right here with 2x is greater than or equal to negative 8. In order to solve that, would you need to flip the inequality? Would you multiply or divide by both sides by a negative number? And if the answer is no, then you would just say no, because you would divide by a positive 2. Okay, that is the end. And I don't want to rewatch the video because that would be silly. Okay. All right, that's the end of my lesson. I wish we had something more fun. I think that feedback on this, what do you guys think? Do you think quizzes is better or this is better? Yeah, I like quizzes better too. Okay. Yeah, I like the quizzes. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording and then we will see you for sure next week.